Madam Chair, can we do a sound check? Just talk a little bit and let's see if we're trying to work out some audio issues in this room. I just want, okay, go ahead. Can you talk a little bit? I just want to see if they can hear you.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see everybody.
How's that?
Good morning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to go out of closed session.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board discussed personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters during closed session. Matters discussed in closed session have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action and information items. Will members of the board certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed session? Please answer via roll call. Ms. Jordan?
You're muted, Peggy. Yes. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. For a roll call vote, Mrs. Socek?
Yes.
Dr. Shores?
Yes.
Mr. Harrow? Mr. Harrow? How about Mr. Reed?
Hang on. Did you hear me, Peggy?
No, I didn't, but I can now.
How about me, Peggy?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now. And Mr. Goforth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The Middlesex County School Board meeting for May 11th, 2020 is now in session. Due to the state of emergency declaration announced by Governor Northam in order to curb the spread of the COVID-19 virus, the Middlesex County Board of Supervisors on March 31st, 2020, passed an ordinance which, among other things, states that the infectious nature of COVID-19 makes it unsafe to assemble in one location members of the public and/or a quorum for public bodies, including the Board of Supervisors and the school board and other bodies pertaining to the county, making it difficult or impossible for public entities to conduct meetings in accordance with normal practices and procedures. In accordance with section 15.2-1413 of the Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended, notwithstanding any contrary provision of law, general or special, the following emergency procedures are adopted to ensure continuity of government during the pendency of the emergency and disaster created by COVID-19. Section B, under that, meetings of public entities may be held electronically through real-time electronic communication means without a quorum of members physically present in a single location, provided that notice of such meetings is still given in accordance with applicable laws. Acting under the jurisdiction of Middlesex County Board of Supervisors, this meeting will be conducted in compliance with ordinance. Mrs. Jordan has recommended that all of our motions be approved by roll call. So today, when we have our motions seconded, when we vote, she will use a roll call. This is a procedure that apparently the county is now following, so we want to be in compliance. All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are a few additions to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve those additions?
So move.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All right. Mrs. Jordan, do you want a roll call on this also? I heard everybody.
What's the
Yeah, ma'am, I
question?
think just on the business items.
Okay, only business items. Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Public announcements, May 1st, National School Nutrition Employees Day, May 4th through 8th, National Teacher Appreciation Week, May 6th, National School Nurses Day, and June 8th is the next school board meeting, electronic meeting at 11 a.m. The meeting is now open for public comment.
There is nothing in the chat or on the message boards on Facebook.
Thank you. I will now close public comment. Board members, if you have reports that you would like to bring for us. Mr. Goforth, do you have anything?
I'd like to first commend you on your post on teacher appreciation. I thought it was well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you, Dr. Shores. Dr. Shores, do you have anything from Governor's School?
Governor's School, we had 2 people that have resigned. One has found a replacement for one. The next replacement she has to complete mathematical statistics at the community college, problem solving and mathematical modeling, a applied differential equations, number theory. Let's see what kind of some other course. Anyway, they have been approved, the community college has approved that her program. And if she completes this program, she can be hired at the governor's school.
I spoke with one of the governor's school's teachers the other day, and she was saying that our kids were right on. Nobody had missed a beat. I was really proud to hear that. She said they're all working hard, getting it done.
And they have done a very good job. And director selection was also an excellent one.
Good. Mr. Goforth, anything from Bridging?
They've advertised for the director. I have not heard whether they have any applicants or not. That position being empty, of course, has created problems to follow up with students in the community college. I felt, looking at our budget, that their budget should have been cut. So when we get to our discussion, I'll ask Dr. Gretz whether that was done or not, because I can't tell from our budget. The foundation is meeting Wednesday. I understand that money is available, but the holdup may be right now in the county and getting water and when water would get to the project, because part of the bid is the fire suppression system that cost extra because we don't have the pressure there. So we're going to wait till we get that pressure to cut the cost a bit. Any questions about that? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hara, anything from WHRO?
No, Dr. Gretz met with, they had a virtual meeting with the superintendents, but as of this point, things are pretty well going fine.
Good. Mr. Reed, anything on the task force?
No, haven't heard anything lately. I did hear through the rumor mill that the cases as far as opioid use have gone up since this pandemic has started. So I'm trying to find more information on that to see if there's any truth to it or not. But it's not a good sign.
I have some good news. The tuition for the regional SPED program has been reduced by about $6,500 per child. So that's good news. But the program, they are attempting to help those children as best they can. Of course, they're at home, but they are doing their best to work with the parents to make sure that everything that can be done is being done. Anything else? Did I miss anybody? We're good? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Dr. Gretz, we have some action items here, and these will be the ones that Ms. Jordan that we'll use for the roll call vote.
Correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with the board's permission, before we before we deal with the appropriation request, I think it'd be appropriate, there'll be certainly more formal communication that we will do throughout our school community. But with the board having just approved Dr. Sears' resignation, I did want to take the opportunity. Dr. Sears has been offered a position as Director of Exceptional Education. And we are very, very sad to see her leave our team. She's been an unbelievable team member. She's done an incredible job establishing and leading and creating vision for Compass Academy. But just on behalf of our team, I did want them to know that. And on behalf of our team and the board, to express to Dr. Sears our sincere appreciation and congratulations. And again, we'll do more formal communication about this, but just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Okay. So the first action item is for the board to approve the appropriation of CARES Act funds. And as you know, we've been anticipating that funding to be allocated throughout the Commonwealth, and we did finally get the amount. Is a little bit higher, about $20,000 higher than we had anticipated. So $295,177.20. This has been distributed using the Title I formula, essentially related to free and reduced eligibility numbers. And so the eligible expenses are really very, very lenient. The state has given the school board a lot of flexibility on how to use this money. We lifted language out of the document itself to put in your agenda. And that really is related to the purchase of educational technology, which is the first expenditure that hit us. We have purchased some iPads to be distributed, and certainly we're working on hotspots and costs associated with getting students and families connected for the purpose of supporting learning. But there are other expenditures throughout the year that we can consider as well. So certainly we'll entertain any questions that you have. We're going to be working on the application, I think, comes out today, that we fill out, where we essentially notify what our intent is and how we would like to spend this money, realizing that I think it'll be a fluid process as we move through the year. There'll be expenditures related to the closing, and we don't even know what that's going to look like in the summer or for the beginning of the year. So as those things happen, we'll consider those appropriately. So the request is for the board to approve this appropriation. It's already been approved by the supervisors during their regular meeting last week. And any questions that you have, we're happy to answer.
All right, is there a motion to approve the appropriations from the CARES Act?
So moved.
All right, moved and seconded. Any questions for Dr. Grutz? If not, will each board member respond by roll call?
Mrs. Socek,
Yes.
Dr. Shores. Was that a yes? Mr. Goforth,
Yes.
Mr. Harrow,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. The annual local special education plan is that next on the list? Is that what we're doing? Kathleen?
Yes, and we're very honored to have Ms. Velas with us, and she is going to, I think she's, Kathleen and or Steve, are you set with sharing your screen and all that, whatever you need?
Figure out how to share the screen. So if Steve could help me with that, that would be awesome.
So Kathleen, you are set to a co-host. On the bottom toolbar, you should see share screen in the center of all of the options down there?
Yes, sir, I do. Beautiful. Thank you.
No problem.
And then I need to move this out of the way so I can see. Bear with me for just 1 minute. So thank you, school board members and Dr. Gretz, for allowing me to share with you our 2021 local special education plan. As you're aware, this is something that we have to do every single year to determine, how we're using our funds for special education. And so this is a formal agreement between the local education school board and the Virginia Department of Ed regarding the provision of special ed and related services to our children with disabilities. Receipt of these federal funds for the education of students with disabilities are contingent upon the approval of this plan and each of its components. The draft was shared with our Special Education Advisory Committee, which is usually referred to as the SEAC, and it was reviewed on April 30th, 2020, and I did that over the telephone. Funds are used solely for special education personnel. The special education annual plan consists of 2 separate funding streams. One is for 611, our school-age students with disabilities, that's K through 12. And 619 is preschool students with disabilities. Funding allocations are formula-driven. The plan is based on the 1920 award amounts used to support the salaries of special education teacher positions, 4.5 of them, under 611, and partial salary for 1 instructional assistant under 619, which is our preschool program. I put down the total salaries and purchase supplies under the 611 and the salary portion that's paid out of 619. There are required components to this annual plan. We have to have the superintendent's certification. There's a policy statement of assurances that we are utilizing the funds for those reasons. We have an agreement between special education in the local and regional jails. That's with our Middle Peninsula Regional Security Center. The report on the implementation of what we did with the 18-19 funds, maintenance of effort eligibility, coordinating intervening services with our little babies, proportionate set aside, and the application for use of federal funds for, and it did not finish my sentence, so I apologize. The report on the implementation of this plan is that all federal money is allocated in this annual plan, in the annual plan of 18-19, and it was utilized for the salaries and benefits, again, of the special education personnel. Under maintenance of efforts, I have learned a lot this year, as you all are probably very well aware of how things work in different places. Divisions are required to spend at least the same amount of local money plus state dollars for the current year as we spent from the preceding fiscal year. It includes the cost above and beyond the cost that's provided to our regular education students who are non-disabled. There are 4 tests that are used to determine the maintenance of effort. It's your local dollars, the local plus state dollars, local per capita dollars per student with disability, local plus state per capita dollars per student with disability. Then we also have the proportionate set aside. This is the money that we set aside of federal funds for special education and related services to our students who are parentally placed in private school and homeschooled students with disabilities. Then we get a notification of the final award. That notification of the award comes in October 2020. The funds will be dispersed twice during the year, part of it in July and the larger component in October. And I believe you all received a copy of the plan in advance. So are there any questions?
I have a question about maintenance of effort. They're not considering waiving that under the circumstances?
That's something I would have to probably ask Karen to chime in on, because that part I'm not completely sure on.
I can tell you there's been a lot of conversation about that. And in the world of IDEA and special education, there's been no indication that any of those requirements are going to be relaxed. You agree with that, Karen?
I concur.
Whoops.
Kathleen, thank you. You did a really good job. That was a great overview. Any other questions from board members for Kathleen?
If not, is there a motion to approve the annual local special education plan?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All right, Ms. Jordan, would you please do the roll call?
Sure. Ms. Sochek,
Yes.
Mr. Goforth,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Shores,
Yes.
Mr. Harrow,
Yes.
and Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Gretz,
I can't see my
request for 2020-16. Or did we do all of that at one time?
I've got policy, first reading policies as next on the agenda. Is that correct?
We haven't done the budget transfer yet.
Right.
Yeah, that was number 2.
So we started with the appropriation and then I went to the special ed. So we're at the budget transfer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right, I'm with you now. Okay, so page 25 of your packet is the transfer of funds. As you're aware, our cafeteria is designed to be self-sustaining financially. We struggle with that. This is a common problem all across the Commonwealth where, frankly, it's a struggle to get kids to purchase lunches, and it's a struggle to purchase foods that incentivize kids to purchase the lunches. And so there's always a delicate balancing act financially to keep that program in the black. And we've done a great job, I believe, to do that. But we were barely in the black. And now that we have shut down and we're not getting any revenue from the sale of school lunches, but we're continuing to pay employees to prepare meals and distribute meals, we were not going to remain self-sustaining. We were going to go into the red. And so what we've done is taken some of the savings out of the instructional lines. We're not paying any substitutes right now. We're not doing any field trips. We're not, there's several places like that in the instructional lines that we're able to realize savings. And so we've taken some of those savings and we're asking you to transfer $150,000 out of those lines into the operations in order to keep the cafeteria self-sustaining for the rest of the year. You have any questions about that?
Is that something we have to, is that transfer from one line item to something totally different? Is that something we have to ask permission to do?
It is, yeah. We've gotten permission from the supervisors. It's a categorical transfer.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Is there a motion to approve this transfer?
So moved.
I'll take that as a second. Any questions for Dr. Gretz? Ms. Jordan?
Mrs. Sochek,
Yes.
Mr. Goforth, Dr. Shores, Dr. Shores, Dr. Shores? Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Harrow? And Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Gretz, our policy revisions here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. You have several policies on first reading. We've split these up as we have been to make them a little more manageable. Most of the revisions are not substantial. I'll call your attention to one just out of interest's sake. If you look at page 36 of your packet, page 36. So this is your policy on school year, school day, and this just simply codifies the fact, if you look at the end, there's a section for divisions that participate in joint or regional programs, and this just makes it official that those participating divisions can get together, and by agreement, they can make their own adjustments outside of the waiver process to support instruction. So this is how divisions last year, if you remember, there were divisions in the Northern Neck that were going to start even earlier than the 14 days that everybody had the opportunity to do. So I just call your attention to that. On page 46, you'll notice there's, so with the ability to enroll non-public school students on a part-time basis to admit them, you'll see there's some additional flexibility and some additional provisions for those students in this policy that I would call your attention to. And Madam Chair, my recommendation is, because I think we're all getting used to working with a agenda packet that's large and now is online. So we're working with it online and dealing with meeting online. My recommendation is with policy JFC, that's student conduct, and policy JGD, suspension and expulsion, just because there are some more substantive changes in there. And there's nothing associated with, there's no urgency to pass these policies this month. I'd like to pull those off and spend a little more time with our team and with the board just to make sure that some of those more substantive changes we're able to work through. So my recommendation would be for you to pass these policies on first reading, with the exception of JGD and JFC coming off the slate. That is my recommendation. And if you have any questions about any of these policies, I'm happy to walk you through them, but those are the two that really have the more substantial work to be done that I just want to make sure we have time to talk that through.
Are they related to laws that were passed by the General Assembly?
Some are related to new laws, and some, it looks like what the VSBA is recommending is that we get rid of the regulations that have for a long time been associated with the student conduct policy. And then it looks like they've taken those and parsed them out separately. And that's why I want to make sure that everybody's very clear on how those new regulatory policies are associated to this student conduct policy. I don't think that ultimately, as I read through all that, I don't think it changes things dramatically for us, but I want to make sure, and I want to make sure we all have an opportunity to see how those work.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the listed revised policies with the exception of JFC student conduct and JGD/JGE on first reading? Okay. Is that a second in there also? Ms. Jordan, you want to take a roll call?
Mrs. Sobchak? Mr. Goforth?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Harrow?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, I believe we're at the amended budget.
Okay, board members, I'm going to share my screen for this one. So let me make sure that make sure I'm able to do this well. Huh. Looks like I'm going to need Mr. Dunkel.
Do you see the share screen option at the on the bottom toolbar?
I do. When I hit it, I get a white screen that just says desktop, whiteboard, iPad, Keynote.
What program are you trying to show? Is it in Keynote?
The Keynote, yes.
Okay, go ahead and give permission to Keynote when you hit share screen.
Down here, Keynote unknown.
Yes.
Steve, I might need you to drive. Are you able to do that?
If you send me the file, I can share it.
Hmm.
Did you have the desktop option, Pete, when you hit share screen?
Yes, now I do.
Okay, there we go.
Is that working?
Yes, and then go ahead and hit open system preferences there. And okay, you're good now.
So how do I get the, okay. Can everybody see that now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right about when it's time for us to come out of school closure, I will figure all this out. Okay. Well, I don't have a big presentation. I just wanted to walk you through a couple of things. So board members, this is just to remind you of how we started this process. We projected an ADM next year, which of course drives state funding of 1130. We were expecting an increase in the local county transfer. We were expecting an increase in per pupil state funding. We anticipated flat federal funding. We knew that support for Compass Academy from river counties was going to decrease by half. If you remember, that's a 4-year tapering, well, it's a 3-year grant, really, 2 years of full funding, third year half, and then next year would be the 4th year when we pick that up all together. And then we originally built the school board budget around the General Assembly funding the governor's budget. Couple of variables that we were considering at the time. We knew that our local composite index was going to decrease slightly, and we knew that we were going to have to pay more for VRS premiums, that those percentages were going up, and those basically cancel each other out in terms of the impact. So since that time, there's been a lot of movement. There's been a lot of movement in the state. There's been a lot of movement, obviously, related to the closure and the economy and how that has impacted Middlesex. Middlesex, the county adopted their budget on the 6th. And so we are bringing you the amended school board budget, balancing to what the county is providing and what the state is providing. This slide shows you a breakdown of the substantive change, and they're not all really substantive, but these are the changes in state funding since March 10th. So the last time we got together to talk in March, and you had an approved budget that had been submitted to the county, these changes have happened since then, the revenue coming to the schools from the state. And as you read through those, so SOQ basic aid, this is what it was, and this is now what it is. And so you can see it changed a little less than $10,000. So as you go across here, you can see these are the changes. The big one, the compensation supplement, obviously, that's the biggest one. And the total impact is $116,000 less in state money than your adopted budget anticipated. Do you have any questions about this slide?
Yes. The VI funding, governor's budget was an increase in that area, and we anticipated with the new program an increase, but that shows we're not getting one.
Well, the question is related to the Virginia Preschool Initiative down here. We are getting an increase. We're getting less of an increase than we anticipated. Karen, are you on the line?
I am, and that's correct. We're just getting less of an increase than what we'd anticipated based on the governor's original budget.
Does that make sense?
But the 107 is more than we're receiving this year.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
have an additional teacher.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Yeah, this 107 is what we're going to receive additional. And it's a little more than 10,000 less than what we thought we were going to receive when you adopted your budget initially. Any other questions about this slide? State revenue. So this was the big unknown, obviously. We didn't know what was going to happen with the state, and given all the fluctuation, this is a little better scenario than I think what we were anticipating. We thought that we would have less or a bigger decrease from the state. Okay, and just to clarify, in addition to this decrease of 116,000 in state funds, the local transfers, so the funding from the county is also being decreased by 2.5%. So this was the county transfer for the current fiscal year. This is going to be the county transfer next year. It's 256,582 less. So the challenge that we have, obviously, is to balance the budget now with these decreases. And just taking you through, I'm just using the same slides that you used when we actually approved your original budget. This is the lion's share of what we were, of the increase, and this is what this current budget that we are bringing you to approve today removes the salary increase. With the decrease in the 5% decrease in health insurance rates, premiums, we're able to keep this step in. So we're able to keep our salary scales. And I recommend that to you simply because I think a lot was done prior to my getting here to balance those scales and to remove compression. And when you allow those to lag behind even a single year, the first two steps become the same. It's very, very hard to recover from that. More than it's even harder. Be very, since we do have that since we do have that that savings, and we're able to take that savings and apply, my recommendation is that we keep the step advancement.
Question?
Yes, sir.
What about those at the top of the scale?
The top of the scale would receive a COLA increase. Aaron, you come back on. The question is related to the top of the scale. When we do step advancement for everybody,
We always do 1% over step 30.
So you're actually adding a step, 31.
It's not quite a step.
Dexter. Okay. I don't know how to do it. Okay. Good question. Any other questions related to this one? Okay. We preserved the additional VPI classroom. We were able to absorb through. Steve, are you on?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. Are you able to mute?
Is it?
Danielle?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so we preserve the VPI classroom. We have the additional pre-K sped position at the elementary school that we really incorporated that this year, but we're able to fully staff it next year. We do year 2 of carpentry. We have an increase in Bridging Communities tuition. We're supporting 5 seats for the dual enrollment welding and industrial manufacturing. And we're adding the additional day of speech and language services. So all those things remain in the budget.
Right. Bridging Communities is 11,900 is less than we budgeted originally. Was that cut any at all after?
So the question is related to Bridging Communities tuition, and that budget has not been cut. I think that there will be a recommendation in your final meeting, which I think is in May.
Well, we're not going to meet until June.
Okay, and so in your final meeting, I think the recommendation, and I don't want to speak on behalf of 6 superintendents, but I do think the recommendation is going to come to the Bridging Board to remove the salary increase that was in there. Don't think that will influence.
I just hope that would have been done before now.
No. But I think, and it would have to be done by the board.
Will that be?
All right, I started questioning whether there would be a decrease in what was requested at Bridging Communities back a month ago. I was told that Lancaster, who is the fiscal agent, was going to make some recommendations to cut the Bridging Communities budget. So I expected to see that in this, our amended budget. So evidently it hadn't gotten done yet.
No, the update that I have from Dr. Gaston, and this was on the 23rd of April. There are 10 student applicants interested in the HVAC program. So I think they're still moving forward with the part-time HVAC. The potential was for, we'll have a final virtual Board of Control meeting late May, early June to consider the HVAC possibility, as well as to approve a recommendation for the executive director. The final meeting will also afford us the opportunity to review the final budget. So that's where that stands.
All right, the approved budget by the board did not include the HVAC. So we're probably gonna have, if they include that, we're probably gonna have an increase over what we budgeted.
It's possible. Okay.
I'm sorry to keep asking so many questions. but-
Oh, no, not at all. It's please. Yeah. But I think in the current climate, and again, I can't speak for everybody else, but I think school divisions would expect to be held harmless on any increases in this climate if HVAC were added. But again, that would be something for the Board of Control to consider, and each superintendent could weigh in on their own. Because I think that budget I think the recommendation is going to be, for example, in the budget that was approved, there was a 3% staff increase.
Yeah, I knew that. And I thought that would go for sure.
I think it will, or I think the recommendation will be for the Board of Control to decrease by that amount. So I think that could offset the cost of HVAC.
Now, they're gonna have to find an HVAC teacher, and probably part-time, because it'll just be the first year.
That's right. So in the final budget priority related to efficiency of operations and safety, we removed the additional $10,000 that we were increasing the athletic trainer contract by.
May
Do you
I ask
remember
a
that?
question here?
Certainly.
I'm sorry. I just seeing this, thought about it. Does the Friends of Middlesex, are they still collecting money to support the athletic programs and what have you?
I don't know the answer to that. I have not had contact with them recently about that. I think that initially, a couple of years ago, when we went through working with them for the lights on the field, I think the intention was to continue, but I don't know that there's any specific efforts being done, but I really don't know.
I was just thinking if they had monies, the athletic trainer may be a good place, to use some of it, but as a gift.
We can certainly make that request. So this
Mr. Harrod,
contract,
do you know anything? Mr. Harrod, do you know anything about whether they're still raising money? That's not her.
okay. So this contract is right now at $30,000. We were going to increase it to 40. So we removed that increase. So the athletic trainer is not being cut. The addition to that contract is being cut. We continue to support Compass Academy. We have to. Psychology services are increasing. That's to allow for assessments to be done related to IEPs. Again, that's a mandatory service. We had smartboard replacement in. We removed that. The workforce development program with RCC, we'll continue that. And of course, we have a mandatory rate increase for the Virginia retirement system. So to be very clear, once we make these adjustments, originally you adopted this budget. Today you would be adopting this budget. And in your packet, now these slides were just put together to give you a sense of the revisions and the differences in revenue local and state revenue. You have in your packet the full budget, and you can see in each line in each category what those impacts are. And if you have any questions related to those documents, we're happy to answer them. But my recommendation is that you adopt this budget for fiscal year 21.
Dr. Gretz,
Yes, sir.
I have a question back to the athletic trainer. As far as our services, they won't be hindered any, will they, or decreased?
No, the current services that we're being provided will not be impacted. The decrease will mean that we will not be able to add coverage to the games that we were hopeful for next year. We were
Okay.
hopeful that we would be able to add some coverage, but everything will stay as it is this year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Steve, how do I unshare? I'm not feeling as generous.
You should still have the toolbar screen or the viewing options at the top of your screen. There you go.
All right, is there a motion to approve the new 2021 budget in the amount of $18,962,082?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any further questions for Dr. Gretz? Hearing none, Ms. Jordan, would you like to do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Mrs. Socek,
Yes.
Mr. Goforth,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Shores.
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes, ma'am.
is Mr. Harrow still present? I believe he had a commitment. Thank you.
All right, that is our new budget for 2021.
Thank you.
Let's see. Dr. Seitz, instructional updates?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And we actually do have some instructional updates. Letting you know that our registration for both pre-K and kindergarten will begin next week, and that will be primarily an online registration, which is different than we've done in the past. We've hosted days for families to come in, but in today's world, we're doing this online. However, there will be arrangements made for families who do need to come in and do it the way we used to with paper registration. They'll be able to call the elementary school and make appointments on Mondays and Tuesdays to get those things done. Our instructional team is still meeting twice a week. We have standing meetings on Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons. And we are discussing the potential of offering or working on some summer offerings for the summer, specifically at the elementary level and middle school level in reading and mathematics. And we're kind of working through what those details may look like. We've partnered with Virtual Virginia, who is opening up their courses to a platform that lets us integrate into our system, which would make it a little bit more easier to provide some, provide some more material, at least for our teachers, to provide some online instruction. So we've got some upcoming meetings with Virtual Virginia on that. And like I said, we are discussing the potential of some summer offerings, doing it online. It does not look like we would be back in our buildings during the summer. So we are talking about what that could look like. So our continuity of learning is continuing across the division, pre-K through 12th grade. Elementary school is still using Google Classroom, Class Dojo, and Seesaw to communicate with our students. And then, so there's participation virtually through those means. And then we have teachers that are continuing to hold meetings in classrooms through Google Classroom. We did kick off last week at the secondary level, so all of our 6th through 12th grade students are now participating in our COVID capstone. And I will, now it's my turn to try to share screen. Let's see if 3 times a charm here, and I can share what I've got here. And my battery is running low, it tells me. Let's see. So I'm just sharing with you the MHS Capstone project. Like I said, that's being offered at the high school and at the middle school. Both of their websites are a little bit different, but I wanted to give you an overview of what that looks like and what our students are able to experience through that. So all of our 6th through 12th graders are set up in Google Classrooms and have been assigned to teachers. In most of the cases, I think it is a pair of teachers that is in the Google Classroom, and there's 5 weeks of opportunities for students to participate. And so this is just looking through the homepage. Dr. Gretz had a video message on there for students as they begin the work. So I wanted to just take a quick look at week 1 to let you know what some of the experiences were for our students. Each week has a theme, and you can see that week 1, which was last week, is the new normal. We and they have heard that term a lot right now. And scrolling through, there is some journal work, and for the high school students, there were 2 entries that they were asked to complete in their journal, and they submit those entries through their Google Classroom. And just quickly, it was how your life has changed over the past couple of months, and then having them establish or describe what their daily routine is. I was able to participate in a high school classroom last week with Mr. Laster and his students, and he did kind of, he ribbed the kids a little bit on your daily routine. Looks like you get up, you watch some TV, you do a little bit of work, you play some video games. So he was encouraging maybe a little bit, being a little bit more creative in what their daily routines are. So they're able to get feedback in what they're submitting to their teachers. And then on week 1 at the high school level, they were asked to complete a top 5 list. And so what that meant was, let's see, there's a lot of student choice in here. I'm not going to read through the assignment, but maybe they're listing the top 5 movies, or maybe they're listing the top 5 songs right now, or political cartoons right now, or memes, lots of memes flying around on social media. So they, made a list of what their top 5 were, or maybe it's the top 5 that they're seeing for the week, submitting that. And then they were to choose 2 assignments, and that may be a virtual museum tour, or that they've learned a new skill. And within that, they're given examples of something that they could try. So whether it's learning how to cook, or using a new recipe, or they, maybe they learned how to juggle, but they've are encouraged to try something new and different that maybe they wouldn't be doing while they're sitting in a classroom, and then write about that experience. And it's shared in Google Classroom. And when they come together for an interactive meeting, they have the opportunity to talk through that. So that's what the capstone project looks like. Each week, it will be the same types of things that they have to do with journal entries. Maybe, I think, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you could hear, when I moved over here, my laptop died, so I did not plan very well for today's meeting. But I was at the end of explaining just an overview of what the capstone project is. Like I said, every week there's a new theme. What the feedback I'm getting from the principals and their teachers is that participation is continuing to increase. We've heard some feedback from students on, how cool they think it is, but it's taking pieces of what they're living right now and letting them kind of expand on their learning. And again, getting feedback from their teachers. So that's where we are with our instructional practices and updates at the moment. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Can't share my screen anymore since I let my laptop die.
Are there Zoom meetings or Google Classroom meetings going on in all the schools every day?
They're going on in all the schools, maybe not necessarily every day, but they're definitely going on in all the schools. And you know, they're trying to stagger what that looks like, because what we've encouraged them to pay attention to is that we may have a family that that has multiple children in school, or multiple children in all 3 of our schools. And so there is that coordination effort that maybe teachers didn't have when they have kids in the classroom. You know, I know I've got this child with me at this time, where it may be that families are working through one device or the parent support that they're working to make that happen. So not every day. There are activities every day or assignments every day, but not a meeting every day, but there is contact.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if there's no other questions in that, that's where we are right now with what's going on in instruction.
Ms. Sykes, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea the amount of families that we were able to assist in getting internet or any type of devices for the areas where the internet was, where there was no internet?
I'm going to invite Steve to chime in on this. I know we worked on distributing devices and we've worked on identifying families. We have purchased some or hotspots or the packages in order to deliver those. So I am going to ask Steve to jump in and share with everybody where we are with that.
So at this point, I have acquired 15 additional cell phones that we're using as hotspots that are now available to staff. I'm still trialing those devices to make sure that they're appropriately locked down and I can monitor them. We are still in communication with Lancaster about acquiring Verizon hotspots that they had ordered as part of a free E-rate promotion. But at this point, we are vetting options for providing internet access to as many students as we need to, hopefully getting fully geared up for a fall enrollment if we need to.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering how that was going. I'd heard something about it that was being worked on, but I was just curious on how far it had come along.
Yeah, and I'm still vetting some other options as well to see what is probably the most realistic. But we are still gathering information. We're still doing diagnostics and still working out the best plan at this point. But we will have, I think, a full coverage plan by a fall rollout as necessary.
Okay, thank you.
So a question about the cost of that. Where do we find the money to cover that? Is that something that can come through state or federal funds?
That is all can be covered through the CARES Act funding that we've received. And even if we had to provide internet access to 300 or more students, the monthly cost and the hardware cost would still be well within that range.
Thank you.
I've got a question before we leave that.
It's time for public. Oh, go ahead.
I must have slept when we had the agenda item for the 295,000 for the CARES Act. Did we approve that?
We did.
Yes.
It was the first thing we did.
We did approve it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then I have a comment I should have made at that time. Karen has mentioned that those funds are to be used to offset some of the expenses caused by the problem, virus problem. I would like, and if it's not too much of a problem, an accounting of all of that at the end. And the second question is, this late in the year, are we going to be able to carry over any of those funds that are not spent?
Yes, great questions and good comment. It's not going to be a problem at all we're keeping a very close accounting of all of the costs associated with the shutdown. And so we'll share that with the board each month, and certainly we'll have one at the end whenever the end is and whatever that looks like. And the answer is yes. In fact, our recommendation is going to be probably to carry the majority of it into the next fiscal year.
Actually, during this meeting, 100 iPads came to my house for enrollment while we were all sitting here that are lined up on my desk next to me now.
Right.
You're on mute, Karen.
The state is actually extending our reimbursement for CARES Act funds until September 30th of 2022. And as part of the requirement for this, I have to keep detailed inventory of what we purchase with these funds.
Mrs. Murray is on top of it. Mr. Goforth. She's got it covered.
I knew she would be.
All right. It's time to open for public comment.
There are no comments in the chat, and there are no questions on Facebook or YouTube.
All right. Thank you. I will close public comment. Dr. Gretz, do you have anything else to report to us?
The only thing I'll do is just officially ask everybody to join us in congratulating our Teachers of the Year. Each school has gone through a comprehensive process, and there are 3 individuals who are being honored at the school level. And as you know, in the forthcoming weeks, we will choose one to be the Division Teacher of the Year. So at the elementary school, Leslie Gilly is our Teacher of the Year. At Sinclair Walker, Bailey Hooper. And at Middlesex High School, Brindley Lowe. So 3 very well-deserving, exceptional educators. Very proud of them, and thankful for the schools going through the process that they did. And so we will honor them appropriately as we move forward.
Thank you.
Brindley Lowe, art teacher at the high school.
MHS graduate also.
That's right.
So is Bailey.
So is Bailey.
Yes, yes. Is there any old business to come before the board this time?
Madam Chairman, earlier in the meeting, we were discussing the Director of Bridging Communities. And
Yes.
that I indicated I didn't know whether we had applicants or not. Susan Fleet was tuning in. She sent me a text, said she is on the committee for interviewing the director, and they have interviews set up for Thursday. I'm very confident Susan will do a great job. Thank you.
Ms. Fleet, thanks for keeping him straight. Is there any new business to come before the board? If not, our next meeting is what did we say, the 8th of June? What did I miss? Yes, the 8th of June, 10:30 closed session, 11 a.m. Regular board session, and we will have a Zoom meeting as we have done the last 2.
I will set that up and send out the invitations.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a second? Dr. Shores? All I got left. Come on. Thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.